Good evening, and thank you for joining us on the program Capital Market. I'm Temple Ashaju. Last week's expiration of VAT exemption from the capital market transactions, as well as stamp duty of 0.75%, took the center stage in the discussions of securities dealers and traders this week, as operators generally call for the eradication of those charges. Tonight on the show, we'll bring you highlights of that conversation, and of course, that's held as a session of the issuing houses of Nigeria, as well as what the federal government's response is on that request. On the other hand, we've got the dominant issues of other dominant issues in the securities market, where we have less participation of millennials in the capital market, securities trading, and of course, equities, bonds, and all of the instruments that you have in the market. They are not so much present as investors. That's the development that speaks to the low level of financial literacy in the country. And one fund manager believes that a lot has changed in the system, as he remains optimistic about the latest technological advancements in the market, resuscitating the interest of those youth in stocks and bonds and all other instruments that you find in the market. That's also on the show this evening. But let's begin with some stories that will be of interest to you. Ahead of the ministerial portfolio assumption under President Muhammadu Buhari's administration, issuing houses in the Nigerian capital market are asking for a restructured tax regime, while asking for tax holiday and the eradication of value-added taxes on capital markets transactions. The operators call for pioneer status for quoted and private companies with prospective listing plans.
Permit me to use this occasion to pass on quietly a few issues that are very close to the heart of the market. One of such issues is the consistently high interest rates, especially on short-term risk-free instruments, which is a disincentive to long-term investments and unfavorable to our equity capital markets, the source of risk capital formation in any economy. We are not unaware of the economic challenges which forces a tight monetary policy regime, but the need for fiscal and monetary policy balance to prevent the crowding out of the capital market cannot be overemphasized. Your Excellency, we advocate favorable tax structures for the capital markets, as studies have shown that listed companies are inherently more transparent in their financial reporting and pay much more in taxes compared to unlisted companies. We seek tax incentives such as reduced company income tax for a limited period and reserving government privileges like pioneer status for either only public companies or private companies with a committed, defined period for listing. We think this action will greatly improve equity listings in the Nigerian capital market. Furthermore, ending the incident of double taxation on collective investment schemes such as REITs, as well as abolishing VAT, which is a consumption tax on capital market transactions. We note that the 10-year exemption on VAT expired on the 24th of July. So such actions will support improved equity listings and enhance capital market transaction levels. We also urge the federal government to uphold the waiver of the 0.075% stamp duties on stock exchange transactions fees, which was announced since 2012, but has not been honored by government. Your Excellency, we encourage government to sustain its ease of doing business reforms in the regulatory environment. In this regard, we urge the federal government to inaugurate the board of PENCOM, just as it recently inaugurated the SEC board. This will strengthen the governance structure of the pension industry and empower the regulator to make pending and long overdue investment policy decisions for the benefit of the market and the economy. We are also still awaiting presidential assent to the Company and Allied Matters Repeal and Reenactment Bill 2018.
Well, the federal government was represented at the meeting by the Acting Director General of the Securities and Exchange Commission, Ms. Mary Uduk, who specifically represented the Vice President, Yemi Osinbajo. She explains that the government is already revisiting these issues of taxation and other incentives that market operators are clamoring for.
Of this association have directly contributed to our economy by aggregating the much-needed funding to support entities in the private and public sectors. The capital market is essential and key to achieving the economic goals of administration, as enshrined in the Economic Recovery and Growth Plan. We have worked hard to ensure a stable macroeconomic environment, which is necessary to attract and sustain investments that we need to propel our economy forward. As you are aware, the ERGP recognizes critical sectors for financing to include agriculture, infrastructure, power, and SMEs. No doubt, the government cannot do this alone. Government must evolve from an omnibus provider of citizens' needs into a force for eliminating the blockages that restrict innovation and market-based solutions. In this regard, government has collaborated with the capital market community, and particularly with members of your association, in structuring novel arrangements to fund infrastructure development through instruments such as the FGN Sukuk Bond, FGN Green Bond, infrastructure funds, as well as the planned trading of tax credit instruments. We see the capital market as an important driver of our growth agenda, and we will continue to collaborate with the capital market community to support its efforts to positioning our market to where it should be. This administration, and especially my office, has supported the 10-year capital market master plan implementation initiatives since inception in 2015. As many of you may be aware, in the past few weeks and months after the 2019 elections, I have engaged various stakeholders from the capital market community and on several issues, some urgent and others of a longer tenure. For instance, I hosted the Capital Market Master Plan Implementation Council, CAMIC, a few weeks ago, where I received updates of successes recorded so far on the master plan implementation efforts and some of the challenges that need to be addressed by governments and other stakeholders. On the part of the government, we are already tackling the issues regarding stamp duties collection and the extension of the VAT exemption on capital market transactions. These issues are being addressed currently, and a resolution would be announced very soon. We have also commenced work on other aspects of CAMIC's requests that require government intervention, and will be collaborating with many of you in the capital market community to successfully address them. My office is actually represented on the CAMIC. I will therefore be receiving periodic reports on suggestions to further strengthen our support of your efforts and the market as a whole. We all desire a capital market that would broaden access to economic prosperity by enabling the emergence of financially responsible citizens, accelerating wealth creation and wealth distribution, providing capital to small and medium-scale enterprises, and catalyzing housing finance. Let me therefore commend the Securities and Exchange Commission, CAMIC, and the capital market community for the laudable accomplishments so far recorded in the implementation of the master plan, especially in the areas of dematerialization of share certificates, e-dividend mandates, facilitation of access to alternative investments, as well as various initiatives to enhance the commodities ecosystem. Indeed, government and the private sector need to continue to work together to create sustainable businesses and provide the necessary jobs for our teeming youths. In this area, an association such as the AIHN that channels funds to companies and infrastructure is at the forefront.
Ms. Mary Oduk, you know her, she's the acting DG of the Securities and Exchange Commission. Well, the Niger State government is considering an infrastructure bond to upscale the basis of investing in agriculture, tourism, and of course, a lot of other areas in the state economy. The state governor, Abubakar Bello, who was at this same meeting with the issuing houses of Nigeria, tells the media that the program is expected to pave way for more investments in the state, whether as a domestic investor or even as a foreign investor.
Niger State is the best place to come and invest. Coming from the private sector, I have seen lots of opportunities in Niger State. I usually call Niger State an emerging market, and primarily the sectors are agriculture, tourism, and solid minerals. So even infrastructure. Part of the bonds we try to raise is for infrastructure development, because without infrastructure, it slows down development in other sectors. So you need to put the enabling environment in place first. So I just met one of our, I won't say clients, but one of our friends that is interested in developing almost 50,000 hectares of land for rice. And they're also thinking of setting up a rice processing mill in Niger State. So I think these occasions gives you the opportunity to meet not just the big players in the capital market, but also it gives you the opportunity to meet investors. And I think I met one this evening.
Well, the Central Securities Clearing System, that's CSCS, the Capital Market Depository, is considering a fundraising program for the Special Olympics of Nigeria. Channels Television got the hint after a visit of some of the athletes to the stock exchange this week. An event hosted to honor participants at the just concluded Special Olympics World Games in Abu Dhabi, United Arab Emirates.
We are champion partners. The whole idea is to have them have a sustainable way of maintaining the programs that they do, which are excellent, by the way. Secondly, when we decide to, escalate the level at which the participation is, one of the things we're going to do is probably fully partner with them in terms of doing an annual fundraising event where we'll have a special program or a special day where we'll invite what I call our ecosystem to have visibility around the impact of what the Special Olympics is doing to Nigerian children who are, intellectually disabled. I guess that probably will be something that we're examining from a sustainability perspective, because, it's when you expose the good work that this institution is doing that we begin to appreciate. And if they do, it's not difficult for them to actually be part of it, either from a cash perspective or from a, kind perspective. So volunteerism is also another way to do it. But I think cash is also good because it helps sustain all of their programs. So we're thinking about doing something like that on a yearly basis.
It's very essential, and for us, is the icing on the cake. We've been to the Abu Dhabi, World Games of Special Olympics, and we come back. People have supported us, and for the exchange, stock exchange, to honor the athletes it's something that is very encouraging for the athletes, the family, and this is just the ultimate for them. We were here about 4 years ago when we came back from Los Angeles Games, so it's becoming, the usual welcome for them. So it's very, very, very important and very essential for us. Let me just put this in. I'm going to give it to CSCS. They also assisted in putting this together, which is very good of them. We do appreciate that.
Well, after the break, there's so much more around getting millennials to come into the securities market. Stay with us. Welcome back to the program. It's Capital Markets, where we talk stocks, bonds, and of course a host of other securities that you have in the Nigerian capital market at large. Well, the Nigerian capital market has passed through various stages of reforms, from structural changes through to technological advancements, and it's on this basis that some operators really believe that we can revamp the interest of millennials in stocks, in bonds, in commercial papers, in a host of all the securities that you have tradable here in the Nigerian capital markets. We'll speak to the chief executive of Capital Bank, or one of the fund managers in this market. That's Mr. Aigboje Higo, who talks about the possibility of wooing these youths, these young entrepreneurs, back into the market after the market debacle that we had between 2007 and 2008.
We've been around for 30 years, and we opened our shop every day in those 30 years. Well, we started noticing that a lot of our clients are old people, 80 years. We have a 91-year-old client. And we saw that we're not engaging sufficiently with the second and third generation, and we needed to engage with them. Because most of them were seeing us as, okay, that company that does business with my father, maybe not with me. So we wanted them to know that we do business with their father, them, and we also will be around to do business with their children. So today was just to engage them, to interact with them, to get to know them, and for them to know what we're all about and the values we stand for. And we talk about wealth, we help them build their wealth, create their wealth, because we know some of them have come into some huge inheritance, some are running their family businesses, others have started their own businesses and they're doing very well. So we wanted to be there for them, to work with them in their businesses, in their careers, and also in building wealth for the next generation. The stock market can be erratic, and it's sometimes erratic, but even now, there are good buys. Like I was saying during my presentation, that even Warren Buffett says, when everybody is scared and running from the market, that's when you should be greedy. We're telling people now, okay, if you buy a Zenith or a UBA or even a Dangote, you're looking at dividend yields of anywhere between 11 to 15%. They pay dividends twice. We know when they pay those dividends, unless something drastic happens. And they also have a chance that maybe in 12, 18, 15 months from now, there will be an upside. So the stock market is good, but it's not for the faint-hearted. It's for patient money and for somebody that is high on the ball for the future. But then there are bonds. You can get yields, FGM bonds, yields 13, 14%. Treasury bills, rates have come down, but there are still treasury bills, FGN savings bonds. You can invest in our commercial papers. We can give you access to investments in commercial papers of other blue chip companies. So there's a whole, so we're not wedded onto you must come to the stock market. Stock market is an option. There's fixed income, there's government securities. There are many ways we can serve you. For example, you can open your account online. That means you don't have to come to the office. So you are young, you are a millennial, you are Generation Z, Generation Y. You can open an account online. You can trade online. You can fund the account online. Various payment systems. You can fund the account online. You can trade online. If you don't feel like trading for yourself, you can leave your orders online. We will execute for you. If you want to trade by yourself, you can trade online. So we have clients all over the world. Nigerians living in America, living in Canada, a lot of Nigerians go to Canada. We have people in Canada, all over the world. Some of them we've only met online, maybe Skyped with, and they're trading seamlessly. So the innovation is that everything is online. We have a mobile app, you can trade on the mobile app, on the go. So change is phenomenal. There's good change. And in the last 5 years, we've seen a lot of progress. There's a huge issue with unclaimed dividends, and it's getting better now. E-dividend is working. A GDP pays dividends, and that night, you get an alert for most people. So the key is just to get the awareness out there for people to go and mandate their accounts. And, as a broker, SEC, NSA, everybody in that chain is working to educate, the public. And it's better. Before, a company declared a dividend and it took you 3 to 4 months to clear the dividend. Now, the day they say they're going to pay, you get that dividend that day. I say that for most of the top companies.
Well, now let's listen to one of the young investors who really believe that right now is the time to buy. Don't lose sleep on the stock markets.
I think it presents a lot of opportunities for the average Nigerian youth, and the opportunities that it presents are diversification of your portfolio, of your assets. I mean, the general saying is never to put all your eggs in one basket, even no matter how golden those eggs might be. Diversification is one of those strategies that you need to look at in a business. In as much as I'm a business manager and we manage our businesses and invest in the business, we also look at the capital market too as a form of diversification of all our assets. So when we're talking about diversifying, I mean, the equity market provides a lot of opportunities for investors. Right now, the valuations of shares are relatively priced very good. So one thing I would say is it presents a good opportunity to buy into the capital market as at present. And the returns are enormous too. We're talking about 14–15% in terms of returns, when dividend returns. We're talking about capital growth opportunities too. So when you look at the capital markets in Nigeria, there's a lot of opportunities and room for growth in that market. I've been investing in the capital market now since 2003, 2004. I went through the crisis where the market crashed in 2008, 2009. But one thing I would say is the capital market is a long-term game. You need to invest wisely. You need to have a long-term perspective on it. And it also presents a learning opportunity. Normally, if you want to make money, you need to take risk. If you cannot take the risk, then you wouldn't actually make much. So when you're talking about market crashing, just as the market is dipped, you definitely would also get a time where the market also does appreciate. And that lies the opportunity in the market. So right now at the moment, market is very well priced now. And I can almost guarantee you that we would soon start to see the rebound of the capital market.
Well, if you really have interest in the capital market, you know who to talk to, your stockbrokers, before time runs out. Of course, this has been the earnings week, and of course, it dovetails into next week where we'll be expecting some big boys, banks, mainly, to release their earnings. But so far this year, in spite of lackluster performance that has been reported across sectors, a few companies have been able to declare interim dividends. That will be flashing on your screen now. You've got MTN that has proposed some 2.95 naira. Of course, its qualification date is August the 8th, 2019, with a closure period of August 13th and payment date right there. Here's a company with some earnings per share growth of 34.8% year-on-year, driven by increased revenue, gross margin expansion, and a lower effective tax rate. The earnings per share achieved missed the estimates of a lot of analysts. Of course, they've seen annualized H1 2019 EPS now at 16% below some of the consensus estimates that we have in the 2019 estimates by a lot of companies. But a proposed interim dividend of 2.95 naira is up there for grabs for some smart investors who's got the shares of MTN, whether it's minority or major investors anyways. For Ikeja Hotel, an interim dividend of 3 kobo has also been declared. You've got a qualification date, closure, and payments period flashing right there. It's a dividend of 0.03 kobo. Of course, that's a per 50 kobo ordinary shares, which will be paid to shareholders whose names appear in the register of the members. So it's the close of business, August the 12th. And the third right there will be custodian investment interim dividend, which is 10 kobo. I mean, that means a lot to some investors, actually. So if you've got some stake in that company, watch out for how you got to participate, do your papers right well, talk to your registrars, and of course, your investors. And if there's opportunity for some folks to actually key into these opportunities right now, if you've got the time, you can key into those opportunities. They grew bottom line by some 10%, declaring 10 kobo dividend, of course, for the financial results, period ended June the 30th, 2019. Well, that's it on the program for this weekend. Thanks for watching. I'm Temple Ashaju. And of course, I'll see you next time. Bye.